Paul here from My Perfect Failure, helping you turn your failures into successes and your setbacks into opportunities. What would make someone walk away from a family empire to chase a dream with no plan, no safety net, and no guarantee of success? Today I'm joined by Jason VanDevere, founder of Go Crazy, creator of the top-rated planner, used by over 40,000 entrepreneurs worldwide, and host of the Go Crazy podcast, also a real estate investor and author of Dream Driven. Jason's story is one of courage, persistence, and following your passion against all the odds. In this episode, Jason reveals how he traded a golden ticket in his family's thriving car dealership for uncertain entrepreneurial path. The messy but powerful lessons from testing and failing with early focus groups, and a surprising role and discomfort in building lasting success. This was one of my favourite conversations because Jason shows that chasing your dream is less about perfect plans and more about grit, resilience, and faith in yourself. So if you've ever wondered what it takes to bet on yourself, hit play and tune in wherever you get your podcasts.
Who knows what Jay-Z, J.K. Rowling, Bill Gates, and Oprah Winfrey all have in common? Okay, I will tell you then. They have all overcome failure in one shape or form to go on to gain success in their respective careers. Welcome to My Perfect Failure. Join us as we delve into the world of our perfect failures. We will interview, explore, and discuss how our perfect failures can lead us to success. Join us and tune in.
Welcome everybody to another episode of My Perfect Failure. Today I'm super excited because I have another amazing guest for you. So my guest today is the founder of Go Crazy, a platform helping entrepreneurs launch their dream business through courses, programs, and the top-rated Go Crazy planner used by over 40,000 business owners. He's the host of the Go Crazy podcast, a real estate investor with 34 rental units in Ohio, and author of Dream Driven. He's also the proud husband and father of 3 amazing children. So a very warm welcome to My Perfect Failure, Jason VanDevere. How are you, Jason?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to be here with you today.
I'm excited to have a conversation with you as well. I stumbled across your profile and I love what you're doing. Everyone's going to get a glimpse into that in a second, but I love people that, I guess what I immediately got from you, and this was literally only within a few minutes of, so that I think seeing a video, I read a bit about you, then I saw a video where you talked a little bit about you and what you're doing. What really comes across to me, and you'll probably be able to answer this, is that I got the sense that you really enjoy what you do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This has been a passion-based business, just like the name of my book, Dream Driven. It's kind of like this is what I've dreamed of doing, and that dream drew me forward to push through the hard times.
Okay. And you get the sense that it energizes you. And I think what's quite nice about that is when you get that good energy, I think it impacts other people. So I was glad when you said, you would be up for having a conversation. So just maybe to start, it'd be good to start at the beginning. I know that obviously we're going to talk about entrepreneurship and so on. Are you Ohio based? Is that where you grew up?
Yep, I grew up in Ohio. Yeah, grew up here.
Okay.
We like it.
Okay. Okay. And you're an entrepreneur, but there was an opportunity, I believe, for you to go into the family business. For me, seems like sort of an easier choice. What's going on there?
Yeah, so my family's had this business I would have been the 4th generation. So my great grandpa, he bought car dealerships. And so they were passed down to my grandpa, then my dad and my uncle right now manage them. So they have, I don't know if these come across, if these brands are in the same UK, they've got a Kia dealership, Buick, Chevy, Cadillac,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then a used car store. So it's a pretty good sized business, over 400 employees. So I was in kind of on the trajectory to take this over and be the fourth generation to own it. So my dad was having me work in every department so I could learn the whole business and then one day become the owner. And a few years into that, I realized it didn't align with a passion of mine. I would say it aligns with my natural skill set, just with skills that have been passed down probably from my dad. So I was doing well in it, but I didn't enjoy it. And it was really hard because I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always wanted to have my own business. And it seemed like, Jason, this is the best path towards that. It was a pretty straight shot. Uh, but I didn't like it. So I had to wrestle with that. Do I turn down this big opportunity, even though everyone told me like that's the most ridiculous idea, right? I kind of had this golden ticket to just be able to smile my way to being successful. But I decided to leave it and start a business I was passionate about.
so when you, I guess, started to verbalize that to family and friends that you've got this amazing opportunity within the family business, which goes down generations, and suddenly this doesn't really, not that it doesn't appeal to you, but I guess
Mhm.
deep down you realize that there was maybe a disconnect. What sort of reaction did you get from family?
They were hard conversations. I thought about this and prayed about it for a long time before told my dad that I was thinking of leaving. And I want to say they've been extremely supportive of me since I have left, but it was surprising because it's like me and my dad are very similar,
Yeah,
and he loves it there. Like if you came into one of his dealerships, you'd be able to tell if he was there just because he's loud, he's excited. Like it's an extension of him. He just loves it. And because we have a similar personality, I think it was very hard for him to be like, why aren't you loving it like I do? Right? But for
yeah,
me, it was so clear. It's like I will never have that. I will never have the fire inside of me where the dealership was this extension of myself. And so it was a hard conversation. I would say he was extremely surprised. I then sat down with my uncle, who's his business partner, and had the same conversation with him. I think for a few years they were convinced I was going to go out, do my own thing, and then come back. And I think they're realizing that nope, uh, I'm not coming back. But they've been extremely supportive. They were just very surprised.
I'm just putting myself in your
Yeah.
position and thinking about questions that potentially would have come back at me. And the immediate one that springs to mind, and this, I guess most people can relate to this as when we maybe make a left decision
Mhm.
that family might consider a left decision. Invariably, they come back with the question, well, what's your plan then? What are you going to do?
They did, and I didn't have a clear answer for that at the time. So I wanted to design a planner. So I have this business called Goal Crazy, and it started with a planner I designed, the Goal Crazy planner. But at the time, it was like I knew I wanted to design this planner. I didn't have a design. I didn't know how to get them manufactured. I didn't have a name. I didn't know how I was going to sell them. I'd never sold anything online. So they definitely had questions that were really good, and I feel like they were almost trying to who were going to be open to me leaving, but I think I don't know if you have kids. I've got
No,
kids.
no.
Like you want to protect your kids and you want to help them
Yeah.
make good decisions. So I feel like it was coming from this loving place of like, Jason, this is such a good opportunity. Like, look at this lifestyle you can create for yourself as a car dealer. Not that they were trying to downplay my dream, but it was like, look, I had this dream of designing this planner. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I barely have any money. Unlike other families where if their family has big business, sometimes they give their kids money. That was not what we grew up with. It was like you had the opportunity to work at the dealership and earn money just like any other employee. And if you went through all the departments and then inherited this business, then that had a nice chunk of change that you could potentially earn if you ran the business well. But yeah, so it was I had very little money and a very rough idea. All I really had was this dream. Like, I want to do this. This is what I want to do with my life, and I'm willing to go all in on it.
Okay, so you knew that you wanted to do something independently, not go and work for another company. But
Hmm.
okay, so entrepreneurship, was that something that I guess spoke to you? Was that something that
Yeah.
was very clear to you? So there was never any thoughts about going to work for another business.
No, like when I was in high school, I started selling t-shirts and lanyards and candy. I sold things through college. I feel like I liked that freedom of being able to sell things that just aligned with my personality type. I didn't want to go get a job somewhere else. Yeah, it was very clear that's what I wanted to do.
Okay, okay. And sorry, I'm just thinking about. So
Mhm.
again, when you decide when you I guess were deciding with your family about you want to do something independently and it's not going to work for another company and you don't kind of have a plan. I
Mhm.
guess that there were concerns, but I guess that you decided I've made a decision now. I'm going to plow on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the sometimes I would hear, just like in podcasts like this, you'd hear these entrepreneurs telling their story of how they went through these really hard times to launch their business. And I wanted that. I wanted to experience entrepreneurship and the freedom and the challenges and the risks. And I maybe I had this unbelievable ego that just said, like, I'm gonna figure this out. It seemed so exciting to go figure it out. But yeah, and I think they could see that fire inside of me. And also at the time, I did have four apartments by then. So I had bought in a four-unit apartment building while I was still working at the dealership, and I lived in one and rented out the other three. So I could leave my job, and this is a unique
Okay, so
opportunity
that's
that
okay.
maybe not everybody has, but like, so I was able to leave my job, live in my apartment for free, and still make, I mean, this was like 900 bucks a month or something of profit each month. But I was single, I didn't have any kids, that I could live off of that, right? So it was kind of
Yeah.
like I could live. I had saved up a little bit of money to start a business. So it was like, look, I can live here for as long as I need to and provide for myself until I get this business started. So I think between my family had definitely gotten confidence in my ability to accomplish my goals because I was doing well at the dealership. I had those rental properties that kind of proved I had done something. I had all these little side businesses through high school and college. Yeah, so I think that gave him maybe a little bit of comfort.
Okay. Okay. So so there was an entrepreneurial, responsible streak that was evident from
Yeah.
quite a young age, and the entrepreneurial gene was clearly there. What immediately struck me when you were conveying your journey,
Hmm.
particularly as you were beginning to think about starting your own entrepreneurial journey, was the fact that you weren't put off by the challenges, the fear, the I guess the failure that can happen. You almost invited that.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted it. I wanted to experience that struggle. I think it was something that in my head I thought would be fun. Going through it, it wasn't. It was extremely challenging on a lot of different levels, but that formed me so well. Like
Yeah,
I think it matured me in a lot of different ways, and maybe you've had experiences like that where starting a business, it challenged me like to my core. It forced me to get more disciplined, more organized. It forced me like I need to eat healthier. I need to get better sleep so that way I can perform better at work. I started praying because all of a sudden I had something that was big enough I needed to pray for,
mm,
and it made me more of a spiritual person. I feel like that challenge formed me really well. I didn't know that going in, and I wouldn't necessarily want to do it again. But looking back, I'm really glad I had gone through it.
okay, yeah. And when you were going through the challenging moment, did you ever question your decision?
No, I I didn't question it. If I think if the business would have failed, I might have gone and looked for another job other than my family's business. That would have been more out of embarrassment to go back. But
Yeah,
you have to, everybody thought like it was crazy to leave this car dealership, but also I kind of viewed it as I have like the best plan B option in the world almost. Like
yeah,
I could go out and fail, and if I needed to go back to the dealership, it would have been embarrassing, but they would have taken me back and I could have become a successful car dealer in a matter of a couple of years. And most people don't have the luxury of that. So it's kind of like, look, I'm going to give this everything I have. Worst comes to worst, I completely fail, and in a couple years, I'll be a car dealer earning incredible money and with unique opportunities. So,
yeah. Okay, okay. And what's great about your journey is that you've almost set a precedent for other family members that obviously the car dealership is there, but
mhm.
obviously Jason has been successful doing something independently as well. So, so you've got an opportunity here, which clearly you're going to have to work at, even if you go into the family business as you
Hmm.
did and all your other family members. But if you're willing to put the same application in, you can also achieve doing something independently. So you mentioned earlier about a planner.
Hmm.
Tell me about the planner and where did this idea come from and how does it work?
Yeah. So I've been a planner person. I like to write in planners, physical planners, not like an app, a physical planner. And when I was at the dealership, I was going through these different departments so I could learn the whole business. And because that, I needed to get really good at learning a new skill quickly, right?
Yeah.
There was almost this desire I need to prove myself when I'm in the department because one day I might be these people's boss. So I needed to learn what are the goals? How am I going to accomplish it? So I was looking for these planners. I could never find one I liked. I feel like I was going to conferences and reading all these self-help books, and they were all teaching the same principles. And it was like, why aren't these principles just all in a planner so I can follow the system and it'll lead me to success? So that was in my heart. I like wanted to make that product. So when I left my job, I spent 7 months just interviewing successful people. Now, I would say because of my family, I was able to get connected with successful people pretty easily. My dad knows a lot of business owners, so I was interviewing lots of business owners, authors, people who had done something neat that we knew. And I was asking them, how do you set your goals? How do you manage your time? How do you hold yourself accountable? And then I took this and formed a system. And then I hosted 6 focus groups where I took people through this. They would try out the process. And that was extremely helpful. If that's something we can talk more about, I'd highly, highly recommend that for anybody because if I would have launched my planner without those focus groups, I feel like there's a 100% chance it would have failed. It was so eye-opening to figure out what really worked. So I kept doing these focus groups until I had the last 2 of them. It was like it was just going super smoothly. People were getting results. It was working for them, and then that gave me the confidence. All right, it's time to get this thing launched.
So
Uh,
that enabled you to validate the idea and refine it.
mhm. Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I was making this and one of my mentors, the nice thing I was interviewing these successful people on how to set goals, but they were also giving me advice on how to start a business, which was really nice. And one of them told me you should host a focus group. And at the time I thought that was like the stupidest idea. It was like, no, I'm confident my planner idea is great. But out of respect for this individual, I was like, yeah, I'll host this focus group. And I got a group of just friends and family. Maybe there was like 7 people came together. I printed them out little packets of my design. And I thought it would just feed my ego. Like everyone would look at it and be like, Jason, this looks great. But it was supposed to only last an hour. It lasted 3 hours long. We didn't even make it through the whole design. People were like, this is confusing. This is too much writing. This seems repetitive. I don't get what I'm supposed to do here. And inside I want to argue with people, right? And this was a humbling experience where it's like I wanted that feedback, but you also have this desire to try and defend the product that you've made. But it was like, okay, so I took all their feedback. I remember after that first focus group, I went back into my car, and that's probably where it really hit me heavy. Like, what have I done leaving the dealership? People knew I left my job. I showed them this design I've been working on for months, and it's terrible. It was embarrassing. Uh, that I don't think I ever really seriously considered going back to the dealership, but that's when it really hit me like, okay, what have I done? Like I almost have nothing to show for my efforts. But then it was also like, okay, I have a clear list of here's the problems with this design. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to make revisions to this design, and I'm going to host another focus group with an improved design. And the next one wasn't as painful. We did make it through the entire design. Still lots of this confusing. I don't understand what I'm supposed to do here. Uh, Whatever feedback, but I just kept going until it got better and better. And if I didn't do that, I'm sure I would have launched the product and I would have gotten tons of bad reviews. It's like you can either find that the problems before you launch your product or after you launch your product. And I would rather know before I launch my product so I can make the improvements and launch something that'll serve people well.
Okay, yeah, no, totally makes sense because I definitely, and you probably would have come across this probably more than me, but you definitely see entrepreneurs and business people that are incredibly passionate about a project or an idea that they have, and they put blood, sweat, and tears into that. But I think they miss out valuable steps, and I think one of them is the one that you've just outlined, which is to have those cohorts where you're able, or focus groups,
Yeah.
where
Hmm.
you get people to validate your idea and just give you, help you really refine it, make
Hmm.
sure that you're not just creating something that, from an emotional perspective, appeals to you, because that may
Hmm.
not be what the market wants. So it's very interesting that you did that. And so initially you started with family and friends, and were those focus groups, were they all together? So were you all like in a room together or online together, or was it
Yeah.
disparate?
It was physical in person. So every one of them I would get different people, and sometimes most of the time there were some sort of friends or family. I did meet one of the business owners I interviewed. He let me come in and do it to his staff of maybe like
Oh,
12 people,
amazing.
so I didn't know them. But I was asking for favors. I was asking just people that I knew, hey, let's get six of us together, let's go through this design. And it was it was just so valuable. And I think as an entrepreneur, it's like I love that I have a business I was passionate about. And at first it was like I didn't like the feedback because it's like, no, 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 this is my dream. Like people were kind of having ideas that were slightly different. But the more I took their information. I never derailed from my dream because my dream was to make this planner that helped people. They just helped me do it so much better. And now it took my dream that was big at the time but made it bigger because now I had a product that I was so confident in. It wasn't like maybe it'll work or this is just a super small market. It's like no, 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 like I did the hard work. This works. Like I tried it again and again. So yeah, I think the validation super important. I think like two in my book, I break down four ways to validate an idea, but one of them definitely the focus groups. I think another really important one that I did was to pre-sell your product. So, I mean, what this looked like for me was going to just people that I knew and said, "Hey, I designed this planner that helps you accomplish your goals. I know you're a high achiever. I'm going to order my first batch of these. I wanted to see if you want to buy one in advance." And then people would buy it and it's kind of like I feel like those two things coupled together, the focus groups help me validate my product design worked well. Like I have a quality product, but I needed the pre-sales to validate that people would actually buy it, right? I could have pre-sold it, the terrible design, and people would have bought it because they would have just been like, yeah, I want this planner, but it wouldn't have pre-sales doesn't necessarily mean your product is validated that it's a good product. It just means there's demand. So I feel like I want to look for both of those things. There's demand, people are willing to pay for it, and I have a quality product that will deliver and help somebody solve a problem. Hopefully I didn't lose you there.
No, no, no. I
Said
love
it
it. I
too
love
much,
it.
yeah.
I love it. So, okay, so you got to the point where you're able to go out to people and ask them to purchase the planner. So,
Hmm.
just before you got to that point, I'm imagining that you had to produce the planner, so
Oh yeah.
to productize it. What was that process like?
Yeah. So I productized it after I pre-sold it.
Okay, okay,
Just to that. But yeah, so then I reached out to a bunch of suppliers and well, I would say maybe even backtrack a little bit more. One of the mentors that I was met with to ask him how he set his goals, he gave me some advice on how to start a business. And he was like, Jason, look, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, right? So if you want to launch a business, the easiest way to do it is find someone who's already launched a business like this and just ask them how they did it. Boom, there's your straight line. So I kind of set myself on this mission like I need to find entrepreneurs who have started an online business. Doesn't have to be a planner business, but an online business and ask them how they did it. And then I could ask these people, okay, how are you finding suppliers? How are you getting these products? How are you importing them in? And I could follow their guidance. So I reached out to dozens of suppliers, narrowed it down to maybe like half a dozen that I got samples from and then chose a supplier from there. It was frightening. Like my supplier is in China, and I don't mean this in like a racial way at all, but like sometimes you buy things online from these suppliers and they could be scamming you out of your money, right? So there is a risk
yeah,
involved.
of
So it
course, of
was
course.
like frightening. It seemed like a big decision. You want them to be quality, but also you have no clue. I might have wired my savings to somebody on another part of the world and never gotten it back. So it was frightening, but I just kind of followed guidance from other people and I got blessed, I guess,
Okay,
that I didn't get scammed out of my money.
yeah. Well, there's
Yeah.
always a risk of that, and you do hear I've interviewed and spoken to so many people that have gone into a very relationships that are based on goodwill, and they have been scammed.
Yeah.
Things, they paid for a service and that service has not been delivered. So yeah, so there is always a risk there. So I'm
Mhm.
pleased that you were not scammed. Um,
Yeah.
and also a valuable point that you made, actually, I think is worth dialing back to the fact that when you had the idea, you went and spoke to your, I guess, potential prospects to see whether they'd purchase, and then you went and productized it. Because sometimes do people make a mistake sometimes where we want to productize it before we go and ask for the sales?
Hmm. Yeah, because if I would have been asking for those pre-sales and people told me no, then I would have realized like there's not demand here, or I need to tweak what this product is going to be like what's the problem it's going to help them solve, and then try again. So mine is right. It's called Goal Crazy.
Yeah.
So it's all around goals. Don't go crazy, goal crazy, whatever catchy name. But if people wouldn't have bought it, I probably would have needed to come up with maybe the goals isn't the angle. Maybe I need to come from the time management or mindset or what's the angle I need to approach on. I don't, maybe eventually I would have changed to a completely different product, but I knew planners were selling. I just needed to find the right angle to create the demand.
Okay. Okay. No, it totally makes sense. So I just want to go back to the focus groups, sorry, and
Hmm.
then we'll come back
Yeah, yeah.
to go crazy. So when you spoke about the focus groups, I love that idea, I love that concept, and I think that's something that definitely entrepreneurs and founders should definitely use before they launch. But one thing that immediately comes to mind for me is that sometimes we can get lots of ideas from lots of different people that can be somewhat conflicting. And sometimes when we ask people for ideas, some people can be very what's the right word? They can be really adamant or forthright about maybe their position. Was that something that you came across? If you did, how were you able to decipher what was relevant and what wasn't?
Yeah. I think having the group kind of helped navigate that. And at the end of the day, I have to make the decision because yeah, some people have conflicting ideas. You have some people have bold personalities who they listened to a podcast earlier that morning that said you should journal this way, and they're like very adamant. Now I got to have that in my planner. So yeah, having the group though, you could kind of see if it was consistent. I would say like the group setting just makes things a lot easier. At first, I started meeting with people one on one, and I would give them my design and ask them for feedback. And a lot of times, all they would do is throw out me tons of ideas, but they would look through my design and be like, Jason, this looks great. When's it gonna launch? Right? But if I took that same person and put them in a focus group with six people, then they would share with me their honest opinions. Like, this
Okay,
seems
really.
confusing. This is repetitive. The group setting gave them permission to share like that.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I could kind of hear if I've got six people and this person has some very bold idea and the other six are like, no, 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 I disagree with that. I could, not that it's 100% accurate, but, and I did it, a handful of these focus groups. So it kind of flushed them out. But at the end of the day, it was my decision. If something I completely disagreed with, if somebody
Okay.
else thought it was a great idea, I was going to follow my own gut. It's my product.
Okay. Which again is very important, because I guess as a business owner, you get to the point where you realize that you value the input that you're getting from your focus group, but ultimately I will be able to take the information and really take the points that I think are relevant for this product,
Hmm.
and I will come up with the with the product. So
Yeah.
so go crazy planners. So up to this point, maybe this is, I'm not sure how up to date this is, but you've amassed over 40,000 people or business owners are actually using the Go Crazy Planner, which is extraordinary. How did you get to the point where you're able to produce, market, and actually get such a sizable amount of business owners actually using your planner?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, going back to kind of the theme of this podcast, probably the first half, 10, 20,000 were not profitable or breaking even. So I'll put that out there. A lot of trial and error, a lot of trial and error. And marketing. So part of my launch plan was to go on podcasts, kind of like this. It was to get influencers to market. I would highly recommend influencer marketing. It's kind of like if
Okay.
you already have a giant audience of your target market, well then great, you can market to them. But I didn't, right? But there were these influencers who already built a giant following of my ideal target audience. So I would try and find those influencers. My strategy was I would send them the planner for free, and I would ask them for a review. So easy ways to do this was kind of like how I got connected with you, finding podcasts or going on YouTube, and I would look up planner reviews and see like what influencers are making planner reviews, and then I would send them my planner, track down their
Clever,
address,
clever.
reach out to them, or people who are making reviews in my space. Maybe it was somebody who talked about entrepreneurship and goal setting, and they mentioned how they journal a lot, and maybe they haven't done a planner review, but I'd send them a planner for them to review. And that is a grind. I don't know if you've done much influencer marketing.
No,
It's
I
a lot
haven't.
of searching for these people. You watch some of their videos. I didn't have nice like the tool that we found on wasn't I didn't know
Yeah.
it back then, and so I was watching YouTube videos, tracking these people down, finding contact information, keeping track of them all in an Excel sheet. But that was really powerful, and not only did it bring me initial sales, the nice thing about YouTube and podcasts, but specifically YouTube, is those videos are out there forever. They're evergreen, right? Like you
Yeah.
get a big spike. I got a big spike in sales when it published, but a lot of times people are still looking up videos of planner reviews, and now mine shows up and they can see this review and it drives them sales. And it created then social proof. I could leverage some of those videos to get on other channels or put them on my website as reviews and help give people the confidence to buy. So that got the flywheel spinning where things got a little more profitable because at first I was thinking Facebook ads, and initially the only product I had was a planner, and it was really hard for me to turn a profit at a low ticket. Like I sell these for $35. When I first launched them, they were $25. It was hard to cover your cost of advertisement, fulfillment, shipping, all that, and still make a profit. So long
And
answer, maybe you caught it somewhere in there, but yeah.
no, no, it's a good answer. And influencer marketing, I've never engaged with before. But what's great is that obviously and I guess as an entrepreneur, there's going to be tasks that we're going to have to do, which can be
Mhm.
quite laborious, but they're important. So you're able to see benefit from that influencer marketing, finding the right people, giving them the planner, get the reviews, and at the back end because it's evergreen, periodically you're going to see spikes and so forth. I've written down getting uncomfortable,
Mhm.
and there's been a bunch of things that you've referenced so far that I would imagine were probably a little bit different from what you would have had to have done if you were working within not just a family business, any business, because in a business, although everybody works hard these days, when you're within a business, you're kind of insulated because you're not having to make every
Mhm.
strategic decision. So you're having to do all that. So I imagine there's a lot of different elements where you're having to be uncomfortable. Is that something that you've had to get used to?
Yeah, being uncomfortable. Yeah, I feel like a couple years ago, maybe it was a coach who helped me make this reframe, but I feel like I've tried to reframe it as this is what growth feels like. It's uncomfortable, Like rather than feeling overwhelmed or stressed or worried, it's like this is what growth feels like. And this isn't the enemy of me being successful. This is the requirement. I need to do these things. And I would say my personality type likes risks. I mean, likes him, doesn't like him at the same time, but there's a thrill to taking a risk. But yeah, it's just kind of this is what growth is going to feel like. It's going to be hard. This is what also makes me a lot stronger and better. And after you start taking some of these actions, I'm sure you've seen this with yourself. It's like now I'm very comfortable reaching out to
Mm.
influencers, and I've developed a little bit more of a skill set. Still tons of room to grow, but you start to see these things that I was terrified of years ago, and now it's like, oh, I can do that pretty easily. And I don't know. I feel like one of the lessons we were taught as kids was if you ever want to be great at something, you have to be bad at it first. Not always, but typically that's what growth, that's just what learning looks like. So it's like, okay, this is going to be uncomfortable, but this is the only way I can get good at it is I have to be bad at it first, and it's not fun being bad, but you just got to do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's such a refreshing approach because, it gets spoken about a lot, but these days, particularly with social media, everybody everybody is either arriving in a jet plane or leaving in a jet plane. So there's this
Mhm.
very artificial view or vantage point of what life looks like, which isn't authentic and isn't real. And what you do get from those challenging moments, you get those moments of real gratification because we know where we started from, which was a
Mhm.
place of potential doubt, place of potential insecurity, and then you have those sort of little growth spurts, and then all of a sudden you get to the point where I've actually done something, I've actually achieved something quite meaningful here,
Mhm.
and you think about where you started, where you thought maybe we thought it potentially wasn't possible at all. And that's real life and that's growth. And I think once we have those little moments, it really gives us the confidence to do that more and more again. And to your point, we really engage a muscle which we
Mhm.
potentially didn't know we had.
Yeah, I think it's very well said. Yeah, your muscle for it strengthens and you get more confidence in yourself.
Okay, so crazy, the planner and so forth. Now I want to get into your book. So you launched that, and you've gone for the process where you've connected with influencers, you've got it out to your audience and your customers. What was the initial feedback? Was there feedback where you could adjust it, where you could improve it? What was that process like?
Feedback was really, really strong all the way through. And I would say that feedback is what kept me to push going. I mean, like I said, probably the first 10, 20,000 of my sales weren't, I was breaking even, just covering my bills, but people were getting incredible results. So that also gave me confidence. Like, I know there's something here. I just need to figure out the right model to make this profitable so I can keep providing this planner to people. However, over the years, I have done maybe I don't maybe another five focus groups. Now that I've had people using the planner for much longer amounts of time, I'll get feedback and I've done other, those ones were virtual because I have customers all over the United States, even all over the world. Uh, so I'll send them a little booklet with the pages and we try it out over a Zoom call. But the tweaks were they were very subtle with other revisions. Nothing like
Okay,
the first ones.
okay. So is it a yearly planner? Is it a yearly planner?
It's a
Quarterly?
quarterly planner, and it's kind of like a planner and a journal all in one. Uh, it's undated, so if somebody gets it right now, they don't have to wait till the first of the year. They can just start. And the first part, I call it my life crash course, where somebody really clarifies their goals for their life. It helps them answer, what do you want to do with your life? And then it's like, okay, we can start backtracking this back. What are your dreams? What are your long-term goals? We break it down to here's your most impactful goal to focus on over the 90 days, the length that the planner lasts, and we break even that down to the habits they need to work on. It's kind of this system. My vision for it was like I want to help somebody figure out their goals and give them this tool. If they do this every day, they're going to accomplish their goals, and it helps them hold themselves accountable. I can talk about how that works, but that's kind of the vision.
It'd be great to hear about how that works. I think accountability is massively important for us to achieve,
Yeah,
particularly particularly in terms of consistency, organize that. Because if we're not organized, and that's something that we all
yeah.
need help with, or the majority of us need help with, then things slide. And if things slide, then obviously that can impact the success of any product or venture that we're
Mhm.
working on.
Yeah. Yeah. So how the accountability works is, like I said, it first helps them determine what their goals are, right? Now, whenever we set a goal, we need to figure out what are the successful behaviors that make that goal possible. Our successful behaviors lead to our successes, right? That's very logical. Or our unsuccessful behaviors lead to our failures. So when I set a goal, I want to figure out what are the successful behaviors I need to do every single day that'll move me in the direction of that goal. And I also want to find what are the unsuccessful behaviors I'm currently doing that are moving me away from the goal so I can stop them. Hopefully you're still following me so far.
Yeah.
So then after that, I'm going to show you this, but I'm going to try and explain it so people who are just listening can follow along. It comes with, they're called these little scorecards where it breaks down, they've got 10 lines, right? What are the 10 successful behaviors they want to do every single day? And they put it on this scorecard. It's kind of like a little a note card size thing, and that serves as their daily bookmark in their planner. But then every day they'll go through their 10 successful behaviors and it matches up with their daily pages, and they use it as a scorecard so they can grade themselves. Check, did I do the first one?
Yeah,
Check.
yeah,
Yes. Number two, did I do the second one? And they just go through, and if they did 7 of the 10, it's a 70% day. And it's just a really easy way. It's like, I know if I do these 10 things, I'm going to get to my goals. My successful behaviors lead to my successes. So all I need to do is make sure I do them every day. It's kind of like some people think it's impossible to live your ideal life, when really all it comes down to is planning out what's your ideal day and then how close can you get to it every single day. My scorecard is my ideal day, and I grade myself against it at the end of every single day. And I mean, the planner walks them through how to come up with these successful behaviors and determine them. But if somebody's listening along, you don't need a fancy planner like mine. You can get a note card and come up with this for yourself and just review it every single day. How close did you come? Did you
yeah.
follow me there with that?
No, no, yeah, absolutely. And I do think there, and what I love about that is that helps us with consistency.
Hmm.
And consistency can be a huge problem in terms of if we're not consistent, then the business may never happen because there needs to be something that binds us in. And also, I think there is something about I think the planner is a great idea, and also maybe purchasing it as well because I think when you purchase something, it it almost locks us in.
Yeah.
It locks us in.
Commitment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a commitment there because we're locked in. We're buying this planner for a
Hmm.
purpose. And I guess we can use bits of paper and stuff. I've got bits of paper here, but
Hmm.
if I've got lots of different bits of papers, here, there, and everywhere, sometimes it's difficult to, in terms of organization. So you get the
Hmm.
planner, got the planner, you've made an investment, and then you've got the scorecard that you can use. So typically, if I was going to say set my objectives for say tomorrow,
Hmm.
so this evening, would I just write down what my objectives are for? I could, I guess, revisit what I've done today.
Yeah. So the planner, that's a good question. So how I have it structured is the planner comes with three of these scorecards in the back. And the idea is that you have one for month. So when you kind of break your goals down from long-term goals to short-term goals. And then after you set your goals for the month, you come up with what are the successful behaviors you want to be doing every day this month. And sometimes I'll have the same card for all 90 days because it's like these are still habits. Like I'm going to give you example of some like, did I get up on my first alarm? Did I read for 10 minutes?
Oh,
Did I
really?
accomplish my number one goal for the day? Like right now, I'm one of the things is reaching out to influencers like yourself. And
Yeah.
when I was launching my planner, it was the same thing. It's like I needed to reach out to 5 influencers a day. And kind of I now that I'm launching a book, it's like I've gone to other authors and asked them like, what are the successful behaviors I
Yeah.
need to be doing right now? And then I put them on my note card and I know I'm going to see them every single day. And I don't do a perfect job of this. Like I feel like I almost aim for I want to have like a 7 out of 10 day most days. If I'm getting 10s out of 10s every day, my habits that I'm trying to work on probably aren't hard enough, right? Like
Mm,
I could put on there,
yeah.
brush my teeth, but if I'm doing a 3 out of 10 every day, it's like, all right, I need to probably choose something that maybe I'm trying to make too many changes at once. So hopefully that answered, I
No,
can't remember what the
that's really
question is in
good.
there, but help piece it together.
It's really good as well. What I was thinking is, well, in relation to using the planner as well,
Hmm.
we our days may not be that focused
Hmm.
because a lot of the things that we have are in the air. There might be one or two things that we've got locked down, but there might be other things that are in the air, which, if they're not locked down in some type of planner, then these could be really important things that never actually happen. If they do, they might happen 2 weeks later than they should have done. And also what I like about the examples that you just referenced is that if you've got these things locked down, then
Hmm.
at the end of the day, even if you don't hit 10, you know that you say you've done seven, which I think is good.
Hmm.
70% is good. So you've done seven of the tasks, and that's organized, that's focused, and that's in line with whatever the big dream is. So that keeps us kind of nice and tight. The two are because I always think, and I learned this a long time ago, that if you've got 10 things on a list, very rarely will you get 10 done, regardless of who you are, because
Hmm.
there's always random things that come up. Like me as an
Yeah.
example, who's with a podcast, we've shifted this by now because of the time thing. So that might
Hmm.
compromise you a little bit. There's always little vagaries that come into play.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Because lots of them, like mine doesn't have 10 work-related tasks. Lots of them, like one of them is, did I spend time to play with my kids today? It's just kind of my whole ideal day. And a couple of them are work-related, but it's, yeah, going back to what you said, like people, a lot of times they have this giant to-do list in their head.
Mm,
And I think we all, a lot of times, know what the most impactful activity is that we should be doing, like what could really move the needle forward. But a lot of times, instead of starting our day by doing that, we start flipping through our to-do list and go get all these little tasks done. And it's like this scorecard in a way just holds me accountable. Like, am I actually doing what's going to move the needle forward?
yeah,
You know, like,
yeah,
am I reaching out to influencers? Am I asking people to review my book? Like different things that right now are important to me as I'm launching a book.
yeah. Okay. Okay, so I want to ask you about the book, Dream
Yeah.
Driven. I'm keen to hear about that because I love that dream driven vision that I have in my head. So it'd be lovely to kind of get your thoughts
Mhm.
about why dream driven and what will people get from the book.
Yeah. So the book helps them do really three things. It's going to help them figure out what type of business they want to start, perfect business idea. It's going to help them validate that's a winner, and then it's going to help them start it within a year.
Oh
Those are the
wow.
three things it's going to do. But the concept of dream driven is, I think, lots of times when people are trying to figure out this perfect business idea, they think they got to go find the perfect product, and they take. In my opinion, there's two routes to finding your business idea. You can do the what I call easy money route, where you look for what's the thing that's going to earn me the most money, the easiest, or the dream driven route, which is what do I really want to do with my life and then pursue that. The problem, I think, when people go take this easy money route where they look for a random product or a random service that can pay them a bunch of money, is that starting a business is hard. In my opinion, there's no way to avoid that. It's just going to be hard. I don't want to discourage somebody who wants to start a business, but it's going to be hard. Now, if if all you're doing is pursuing this easy money route, if either the easy or the money component disappear, which is very likely to happen, you're going to quit because that was the foundation of why you started the business. So the hard times, they're going to put you out of business. But if you have a dream, if it's dream driven, if you've done the deep work to figure out what do I really want to do with my life, and then you're creating this business to fulfill that, it lights a fire inside of you. And then it's kind of like if your desire is greater than the challenge that's in front of you, you're always going to overcome the challenge because the desire is bigger. But if the challenge is bigger than the desire, then you're going to quit when it's there. Hopefully, I'm not talking too fast here.
No,
So,
no, no, no. I totally concur.
because I think a lot of times people want to go scour the market for what's the perfect product or the perfect service to sell. When what I think they should be doing is scouring their soul to figure out what's the business that's going to light a fire inside of you to say, this is what I want to do with my life. Uh, and then it becomes so much more than just starting a business. It becomes a journey inside of yourself. I don't know. Hopefully that kind of
No, no,
answered your
no. That
question there,
resonates.
but
Yeah, no, that resonates.
it'll make everything else possible. You brought up taking actions that make you uncomfortable. Look, if this isn't connected to a dream, why would you?
Mm,
Right? Like it would just be like, oh, this isn't easy enough. But if this is what you want to do with your life, like this, it's fulfilling. Like lots of the activities I've done for my own business were harder than the actions I was taking at my when I was working at the dealership. But even though they might be harder and more uncomfortable, something about them internally feels lighter because it's fun. It's like,
yeah.
this is what I want. This is what I want to be doing rather than like somebody could be giving me an easy task when I was at the dealership, but it felt like a drag. It felt heavy because I simply didn't want to do it.
No, no, I totally agree. And I think there's what I loved about what you said as well. I love the idea of thinking about what our dream is for our perfect business, but also what I equally like is the idea that we validate it. So because we can have some dreams, I would imagine that potentially once we go through the validation process, maybe that it's more of a hobby than a business. But once
Mhm.
we've gone through, like you did, the focus group, you think, actually, this is a
Yeah.
great idea. Maybe I should put together a focus group to see whether there's actually a demand for this particular idea. And then we can refine that if there's demand even. So I do like this because I over the years I've spoken to friends, family, work, former work colleagues, etc who may have been, sorry, maybe doing a job or something that they're not totally satisfied with, and reading something like this book. Because sometimes, I spoke to a lady the other day actually that, I recommend this book to her, but she for like probably the last 20 years, she's thought about her own business. But I guess for one reason or another, confidence definitely a contributing factor, has never really embarked upon that. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes we just need to stumble across the right podcast, stumble across
Mhm.
maybe the right conversation with somebody, maybe at a canteen, or maybe we read the right book at the right time. So I think the ability to dream and really think about what potentially we can do from a business perspective, I think it's a brilliant idea.
Thank you. Yeah, the validation for the different business endeavors, I mean, definitely the planner, but other things I've done, it's a key component.
Yeah,
It can
yeah.
make or break it.
Okay, so the book, where can people get the book? Well, actually, there's a number of things here. So where can people purchase Dream Driven?
Yeah. So if they go to Amazon and search Dream Driven or my name, Jason VanDevere, probably Dream Driven's easier to spell, so go with that. Uh, they can find it there. Then also, if they are struggling to find the perfect business idea and maybe they're not ready to buy a book, they're just trying to sort this out. If they go to my site, goalcrazy.com/idea, I do have a free PDF they can download that'll walk them through a handful of exercises to help them figure out their winning business idea. So that's an easy place to start if they're not quite ready to buy the book.
Okay, okay. And I just think it's such a good idea because honestly, I speak to lots of people that, have got, maybe they don't have an idea, or maybe people are trying, they're groping for an idea and they're struggling to come up with that. Because it does take confidence to,
Mhm.
just take the action and do it. But then there's this, I guess, uncertainty that made me a little bit anxious actually
Mhm.
about moving forward and doing it. So definitely I'll put a link to your website in the show notes. I've got two more questions, if I may.
Yeah, yeah.
One is around, like, how do you cope, or how have you coped with maybe the difficult moments, the challenges, the when things haven't gone according to plan? What do you have a technique, or has your resilience built up over the years?
Uh, I definitely run into challenges, need good coping things. I journal a lot, and lots of that's built into the planner, but I journal a lot. And that's part of my morning silence, prayer, journaling. And lots of times what I'm journaling about is what feels heavy right now. And I want to try and pull that stuff out of my head. Uh, Yeah, it's just, I kind of ask myself, like, is my mind available to me right now? And if all my mind is thinking about are fears and worries and things that are stressing me out, I'd say the answer is no, it's not available
Yeah.
to me. And I feel like for me, journaling about those things, taking it out of my head, putting it on paper, helps me not have to carry the burden of that. Also, having a clear way to keep track of your tasks. A lot of times
Mm,
people think, like, oh, I just keep track of it in my head. Look, that might be great, but I can promise you, you're sacrificing creativity or sacrificing the stress and overwhelm from keeping track of everything in your head. One of the workshops I do is helping people plan out their week, and I'll have people make a list of all the tasks that they're keeping track of in their head. I call it a mind dump. And
yeah.
normally, I'll put a timer up for 3.5 minutes, and people can make a list of like 40 to 50 things. It's crazy. And it's
Yeah.
like, no wonder why you're stressed, right? If I gave you a list of 50 things and said, Paul, you got to remember all of these, and if you forget one, there's a consequence, you'd be stressed, right? It's like the
Mm,
definition of stress. So I feel like having somewhere to just take these tasks, put them into a system where it doesn't have to be my system, but some sort of system that you have confidence in. Like now I have confidence when I write a task down in my planner, I know what's going to be getting done. It's like it's almost as good as having it done. It's like I put it in here, it's going to get done. Whatever system that is for you, it just relieves so much stress. Now I don't have to carry the weight of like, oh, I got to remember to do this. All I have to do is put it in the system and then it'll get done. And then mentors. If I get
yeah.
stuck, you need mentors to call on.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask about mentors. So mentors, what's your approach to finding mentors? Are they people that you know, or could they be podcast, books, mixture of
Yeah.
everything?
So I break down specifically 8 ways to find mentors. Most of them are
Oh,
free ways
brilliant.
in my book. So I'm going to try and touch on, I think, a couple of the easiest ones. First one is going back to that what I talked about earlier. Find somebody who's already started a business like the one you want and ask them how they did it. I would start with your warm market, friends and family of people you know who've started a business, or maybe someone you know who knows someone who started a business similar to you. So that's always where I'd like to start. But I'll also like I'll cold call people. Kind of like silly example. I've got rental properties, right? So there was this mobile home park in our area that was for sale maybe 2 years ago, and it really caught my attention. I thought I wanted to buy it, but I knew nothing about owning a mobile home park. So I started cold calling mobile home parks in our area and just said like, "Hey, I want to speak to the owner. I've got some questions about how they run their mobile home park." And most of the people told me, "No, we don't have time for that." But I still met like half a dozen of them that were extremely helpful, that were answering my questions. They were giving me contacts like, oh, hey, we actually know the guy who services the mobile home park that's for sale. Let me give you his cell number. And they're telling me what I should be looking for and how I should do my due diligence. I also, maybe this will be, sorry, I've got lots of different ways, but I'll also look up businesses for sale. Like if you want to well, mobile home park, that was an example, but maybe if you want to buy a restaurant or start a restaurant, I would go look for restaurants for sale. And typically, if you're talking to a business owner who's trying to sell their business, you have the opportunity to talk to the business owner about like everything in their business. They're
Okay,
a lot of
great.
times they'll show you the numbers on like, here's our revenue, here's what we're doing. You can ask them how they do it. Be upfront with them. Hey, right now I'm deciding between starting my own or buying somebody's. I'm trying to weigh that out. Don't completely waste somebody's time. But it's really helpful to be able to sit down with
Yeah.
an owner and go through the numbers. So those are a couple places to start. Unless you want, I don't know how much more time we got here, but it's
No,
possible,
that's
and it's going to push your comfort
yeah.
zone.
No, I like those ideas as well, all the examples you've given, because I think it shows the value in thinking outside the box a little bit, reaching out to people, and the information you get must be invaluable. And not just and we're not just getting information, we're developing relationships
Yeah,
with these people. These people now, because there's been some level of connection. It might be that maybe in 6 months' time something may come up where you know that that individual will probably be a good reference point maybe to ask a question to
mhm.
help, or maybe we can support them in some way because we now have that relationship. Um,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm going to add to that a little bit because it's like my both my e-commerce business, my rental properties. I've got not a team, but like a group of maybe six other entrepreneurs for both of them that I can call on for questions, and
yeah,
they do the
okay,
same
okay.
for me. And we're so much stronger together. But those relationships, lots of them started from some outreach I did, and I reached out as a stranger begging somebody for help. Maybe
Yeah,
begging isn't the right word, but it pushed my comfort zone, and now we're friends.
yeah. No, I love that habit of being able to push our comfort zone. There's a guy that I interviewed on his podcast, Derek Sivers, who talks about probably going to butcher exactly what he said, but something along the lines of if we want an extraordinary life, we have to do extraordinary things.
Mhm.
And extraordinary things can be doing things that we just haven't done before. So if we
Mhm.
do want to maybe grow our network in a certain space, then it is, to your point, you've reached out to influencers and you've reached out to business owners in different areas. And those might be things that we're comfortable with. But actually, in order for us to develop and to grow, then we have to do those things. And I think it can be quite easy if we don't have the right habits not to do any of them because
Yeah.
it feels slightly, well, it feels uncomfortable. And it's just not a habit we have.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, lots of times when I'm doing the outreach, I always remind myself the worst they can say is no, right? Like I
Yeah.
didn't have a meeting with them before, I don't have a meeting with them after, no harm done, uh, and I just find somebody else. And it gives
Yeah.
you confidence once you find somebody, and it's like, oh, that was worthwhile for both of us to be connected. It gives you confidence, like, okay, I'm looking for this next needle in a haystack of somebody who can help me, and I can help them.
So I'm a big fan of Tim Ferriss, and I heard him mention once on a podcast. I don't know if it was his podcast or maybe one that he was being interviewed on, where he said that even on occasions he would reach out to people, and
Hmm.
they might say, "Thanks for the invite or the interest, but for now, I'm not doing podcasts or this, that, and the other." So even somebody as noted as Tim in the
Yeah.
podcasting space, and he had a really refreshing approach to it. I think it was something along the lines, well, it's just not meant to be. Something along those lines, the way that he phrased it, but it was almost a just quite a productive way of
Yeah.
thinking, okay, no problem. It's probably not meant to be. There's
Yeah.
a bunch of other people that I would love to come on the podcast, and invariably the majority clearly will say yes to him. but
Hmm.
it was it was really refreshing for somebody that's sort of his scale that, you know, you don't always get everybody.
Yeah.
But it's not the end of the world. It never
It's
is.
not gonna, yeah.
Never is.
Yeah. One of my mentors, when I was going through this, I was telling him how I was getting rejected from people I was reaching out to. And he had told me, he's like, well, what if rather than calling it a rejection, what if you call it a redirection?
Yeah,
He was like, how would that shift? And maybe other people have heard that, but at the time, that was like exactly what I needed. It's like, okay, I'm being redirected to something better, something different. I'm not being rejected because I suck, which
yeah.
sometimes it feels like that.
Yeah, it does. It does. That's possibly something that he said. He probably used something like that as an example. And I think that's such a powerful way to look at things when they don't go according to plan. It is redirection. And it's also to see it puts me in mind to something that I think it was Ali Abdel says that who's another entrepreneur like you like yourself. He said when maybe dealing with like reaching out, some of the things that you've done,
Hmm.
the kind because regardless of who we are invariably, if we're doing something we haven't done before and if we don't have full control, there's always slight trepidation about doing it. As we do it more and more, the trepidation declines somewhat, but it's still there. So he views everything as an experiment. So this is an experiment, and it helps dim the if things don't go according to plan, it helps him manage that. Okay,
Hmm.
okay, so it helps him manage that. So so Jason, I could talk to you like for hours because I love what you're doing. I think it's really valuable. I think it's really important because entrepreneurship is definitely and it's definitely there's definitely huge growth there. And I think that even if people aren't full-time entrepreneurs, which is increasing, there's definitely people that even if they're in employment, they are looking at entrepreneurship as maybe a side hustle, to something that they may look at more and
Yeah.
more. So definitely, if you're looking to become more organized, definitely get your Go Crazy planner and Dream Driven. I'll put a link in the show notes so you can everybody can easily purchase that. So I think I've got actually two questions. One, where's the best place for people to contact you?
They go to goalcrazy.com, the contact page on there. That's probably the best way. I mean,
Okay.
if they can message me on social media, but I want to give the proper expectation. I don't really go on social media much. So eventually your answer will get responded to, their question, but it might take a while. Website's the
Okay.
best place.
Okay. And if they get the book, definitely leave a review.
Yes.
And
Yeah, I would appreciate that.
and I guess it's a great book to gift as well. So if you've got
Hmm.
a spouse that you know that always comes home and maybe says that they've missed over dinner, they think, well, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, then actually get them a planner. The planner will probably be the best present
Hmm.
you can get, so you can have focus at the dinner table. And I think this is my last question. So last question is, if you could invite three inspirational people for dinner, they can be alive or past. Who might you invite?
So first person would be Jesus Christ, just because that's important person to have a relationship with. Second person would be my great grandpa Rudy. I never met him, but he is the one who started our family's dealership. And he was like, his family was very poor. He ran away when he was 15. And uh, I would be really curious to actually get to talk to him because he's changed the legacy, the trajectory our family was on now. I mean, I would be his great grandchildren, and I'm still receiving the benefits of the habits that he helped our family form of working hard and pursuing what you want to do in your life. Third person that comes to mind is Sir Richard Branson. I imagine most people have heard of him. I love kind of like how I followed my dream. He's done a whole great job of following things that excite him, and I think he'd be a really neat person to converse with.
Okay, yeah, no, they're all amazing. I'm a big fan of Richard Branson, as you might imagine. Do you know there was a brilliant podcast for him by about him called Good Bad Billionaire, and I think he's
Hmm.
had over 400 businesses.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's inspiring.
Jason, wow. Actually, I just want to mention this actually before you go. I love your so if you watch them on YouTube, you can see Jason's wonderful background of where he is today, and I love the no complaining zone.
Oh, yep.
I love
Yeah.
that. No complaining in this room. Brilliant. Jason, thanks for your time today. It's been a pleasure meeting you. I love what you're doing, and hopefully we can have more conversations in the future.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Paul.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of My Perfect Failure. So we're really keen to hear what you like and what you don't like. So you can find me at Paul at myperfectfailure.com, or you can find me via the contact page on the website. So take care for now. Bye.
Thanks for listening to My Perfect Failure podcast. Be sure to visit www.myperfectfailure.com to join the conversation. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Google Play. Look out for our next episode.